One Night in Miami is directed by Regina King, and it takes the account of four icons in our American culture that gathered together in a hotel room and discussed their role in the civil rights movement. We have Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, Jim Brown, and Muhammad Ali. Legends in one particular location, just hanging out. Sold. Now, this would be Regina King's directorial debut as regards to feature film. I do remember she did direct something like one episode way back in the day when Southland was going on. And this film is actually adapted from a screenplay written by Kemp Powers, and he's actually responsible for the adapted screenplay as well. Now, in this film, the intros to all of the characters make it very clear of how this story is going to go about. You have Muhammad Ali pretty much, being this charismatic, bravado, this character, in the ring, kind of fighting some guy, and he gets knocked out. You have Jim Brown pretty much being validated for what he can do in the sporting space, but ultimately gets disrespected. You have Sam Cooke, who just can't catch a break at any of his shows that he runs because he has this agenda to only work, not only, but he wants to perform in front of white crowds to kind of just push his brand a little bit more. And then you have Malcolm X, who is considering leaving the Nation of Islam. All of those moments before it's happening, you pretty much get a sense of what these guys are kind of going in with. And so once that scene happens, the personalities take root. Now, one of the key things that I really enjoyed about this film was the fact that everybody's performances is just superb. Now, as the film goes on, it does kind of slow in pace a little bit. Now, the first 20 minutes of the film are fine, but you can see how it starts, you can feel almost how it starts to slow in pace a little bit, just a tiny bit. But what keeps you in the momentum of it all is just the stellar performances of all of these actors. And to be honest with you, you really get the full plethora of their talents once they get into the hotel room. Now, the hotel bit is easily the best part of the movie. I feel once that starts happening and the dialogue starts to commence, you just can't look away. All you can do is just be so engaged with this film and just listen to everybody's point of view on just the country and things like that. And it's very fascinating. All of the discussions that they talk about, it's all critical and it's all thought-provoking. And one of the things that I can really appreciate too is that none of it feels heavy-handed. Like nothing is so on the nose where, it's like, really, like the movie actually respects the audiences for it, just kind of having their own point of view, but just watching these guys kind of say what they want to say. But it does a good job of not really trying to, reel you to one side. The dialogue itself also feels very natural. It feels like just four guys having a conversation about very serious things. And the film does a good job of making you feel like a fly on the wall, kind of watching these four go at it. But what really helps, and I can't say this enough again, what really helps is just all of them doing a damn good job in the performance area. Kingsley Ben-Adir as Malcolm X was just awesome. Okay. Now, I had a hard time really accepting this truth because when I think of Malcolm X in regards to feature film, my mind immediately goes to Denzel Washington. I mean, the guy's legend. What Kingsley actually brought to the table, I feel like the movements that he brought to the role, like the calm nature that he had and just his mannerisms, like him crossing his legs. And there were times when he would have that little, finger to his temple, like you see in some of the pictures of Malcolm X. I feel like just seeing him do those and watching him, say dialogue, it just felt so surreal. It was almost as if I was watching, some archive footage of Malcolm X talking to these, to these characters. It was honestly really surreal and pretty impressed as well. A lot of vulnerabilities in this one. I feel like in this movie, you can really feel the pressure and the stress of his job getting to him, and kind of seeing him say his lines with those objectives behind him and stuff. It really was selling all of those moments he was having. Eli Goree as Muhammad Ali is easily the best part of this movie, at least in my opinion. I feel like every scene he had, he was just stealing the show. He had that charisma. He had that bravado. He had the that almost childlike presence that he had, that Muhammad Ali had back in the day, but it was so just that confidence that was just spewing out everywhere he went. I feel like he nailed that. I like when he was like there's a part in the hotel room where he's like jumping on the beds and things, just talking about how I'm the champ and I'm the greatest and things like that. And I'm just like, man, I mean, look, at 22 years old, I'll probably be doing the same thing. And look, I love Will Smith's Muhammad Ali as well, but it was something about this one that just made you feel good. It just made you feel so proud. Hodge's Jim Brown was also really good too. And, he had that kind of like that very low back and just kind of calm nature. And the thing about his character too is that he's a man of few words. He's this NFL player who kind of knows, his position in society and stuff like that. But he's also just a guy that just listens. He's the last person to speak his opinions on things. I feel like that was his personality, at least in the film. But I gotta say, I wish he had a lot more to add to the discussion. They do give him a moment where it's just him and Malcolm X talking. At this point, the conversation had kind of shifted into some very intense dialogue and kind of triggered some feelings between the two. And Jim Brown is just kind of like having a conversation with Malcolm X to the side and just kind of saying a lot of really just nuanced things and just bringing Malcolm X kind of away from his radical viewpoints and kind of like centering him a little bit to showing him that, look, we feel you, we understand you, but Sam is also part of it all too. I love that he brought awareness to Malcolm X in a way to where it made Malcolm shift his gears a little bit to saying, like, you're being a little bit too hard on your own people when we're all in this together. We're all going through the same struggle. We're all, as you say, are suffering from this, and yet you're kind of getting too hard on this guy just because he has a little bit more money than you do. And I feel like him kind of breaking his balls a little bit was just so refreshing to see. And it was done very tastefully. It was done very respectfully. Like the camaraderie and the brotherhood of their friendship was still there. Nobody was getting upset. I mean, that scene with Jim Brown was actually pretty powerful, but I do wish he had more.
Leslie Odom Jr. as Sam Cooke was also amazingly done as well. I like that he brought stillness and like some subtlety to the role, and his voice really served to like bring soul to the film, and I feel like it was definitely needed for this kind of project. And also that number he did at the end just gave me so much chills. He did a really good job in this one.
I mean, look, I was having a lot of fun with this film, to be honest with you. I mean, it felt like of my times when I would check out a hotel and register myself in and kind of just invite my guys in for a party or whatnot. It was really relatable, to be honest with you. I was kind of saying, because Malcolm X is like the guy in the group where he just doesn't know how to party because he's the host of this party, and yet he doesn't really have all of the things required, to throw a party. You need booze, you need women, and Malcolm X kind of being all Muslim and all religious, he's just like, I mean, shit, we got ice cream. If Malcolm X was still living and there was a time where like people wanted to get together and have a party, he would be that uptight. You know what I'm saying? There are times as well when a scene is happening, it feels a little bit like shit is happening on a stage. You can tell that, a lot of what's happening would fit better on stage, if that makes sense. The thing of it is, though, and this is props to Regina King, where it would get to that point where it feels like a little stagey. She would like cut to a certain shot that would be, almost important for the tone of what's happening in the moment. And it kind of, all that shifting around, but the angles and stuff like that, it does take you out of that element of this is a stage play to I'm watching a film, and it made it feel all the more natural for it. It's on to Regina King for a second, man. Regina killed this for her directorial debut. I feel like this is a very strong effort that she put forward. And honestly, I know we're in a pandemic right now and it's 2020 and not a lot of movies came out, but I would be on record to say that, she deserves a nomination at the very least. Not saying she needs to win, but at the very least needs to be nominated for Best Director. I feel like she handled the script very, very, very well. Now, me personally, I was finding myself relating a lot to the characters. And this could be different from any person who watches this, but with me personally, I found myself just connecting a lot with a lot of people's key points and stuff like that. Like, the film does a really good job at just not making it so one-sided, because you have four people, four personalities who are all black in one room, sort of just, having it out about, racial issues. And I found myself being just respecting the fact that this is what we need. We need conversations like this more happening with with each other in our in Black community. I mean, right now, diversity and inclusion is a big thing now, and when I hear about those things, it's all about what we look like and surface level things that essentially won't matter. And when this film was kind of like just handling itself the way it was, I started thinking about how important conversations like these are, because all of these guys are black, and all of them are dealing with pretty much the same issues, which is racism and discrimination and all that kind of stuff. But all of them were handling it differently, and all of them were disagreeing with each other on this topic, and yet all of them were not sounding like so monolithic. All of them had different views on how to handle things. And I feel like conversation like those, where it's not just the fact that we're all black talking about one issue and what the solution should be, it's all about just diversifying the thought process. The diversity of thought was really emphasized, I feel like, in this film. I mean, this is just me personally, but I appreciated the disagreements that they were having, because normally in nowadays, in today's society, you don't see a lot of that. You don't see a lot of disagreeing. You don't see a lot of, people, particularly black people, in one room having a conversation about race and actually criticizing each other on it. It's a lot of just jumping on each other's clout on things. And when people do disagree, it gets very, very, very toxic. And one of the things that I felt was very relatable to this time was just showing, four guys talking about something that they all are going through, and yet having a discussion, having it turn toxic, but then coming back together to remind each other that they're all friends and they're all still essentially fighting the same battle, but we're all in this together. And I liked how the film brought to the forefront about how, at least with Malcolm X's character, that even though what he's saying does make a lot of sense, to pay attention to a lot of about how this can be so divisive for everyone, and look what it's doing to us in our friendship just because I disagree. I feel like I think that was the biggest lesson that I took from this film. It's just that diversity of thought is so important, and to be honest with you, it's long forgotten in today's society. I feel like that film really can be inspirational to the right person who is, who has friends who think like this, or who can agree with some of the characters in this film, and yet kind of shows four ways of how to handle it and things like that. Some of the things that would have made this more entertaining just wasn't there, which is why I don't think it's the worst movie in the world, but I think for a debut for Regina King, it's very, very strong. But I was having fun with it. I think I was just having fun with the conversation more, though. Just because I like debates. I like seeing people kind of hashing out, throw ideas up in the air and sort of just figure out what the solution should be and could be and all this kind of stuff. But just having four guys that are iconic figures in our society in one room was just a great idea. As far as Kemp Powers is concerned. But man, I was enjoying this. This was a good watch. I commend her for really, taking this seriously and really being careful with this, and honestly just wanting to do the play justice. Kemp Powers' writing was phenomenal as well. So I'm going to give it a 7.25 out of 10. It's not the kind of movie that's, super overly dramatic. It gets entertaining at times, but I feel like the film, for the most part, is education. So that's my review on One Night in Miami. I do recommend it. It's on Prime right now. Make sure you check it out. And if you like this video, hit the like button. And if you love this video, hit subscribe, man. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, peace.